All right. Well, hello, everybody. Very nice to see my colleagues back here. Just as a reminder, we do have a meeting at 5 in advance of our regular business meetings, and we often discuss topics that will come up eventually at business meetings in more detail. So I'd encourage anybody who's interested to check that out. It's called the Committee of the Whole. So here we are, and I want to officially call to order the Kalamazoo City Commission business meeting for Monday, August 19th, 2024. First order of business, call the roll. Clerk Borling.
Commissioner Cooney. Commissioner Decker.
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Commissioner Pradle. Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Present.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Borling. May I please have a motion to excuse Commissioner Cooney and Pradle from tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Hess, supported by Commissioner Decker. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passes. Are you prepared if I ask you? Okay. We generally start all our meetings, as you can see on the agenda, with the invocation. I see that the person who's scheduled to be here to provide the invocation is not here this evening, looks like. So I will be asking Vice Mayor Hess to provide an invocation for us. So it's a nice way to get started on this meeting. And I will also ask those of us here in the chambers to stand for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. God of all, we come together at this meeting of the City Commission to advance the business and well-being of the people of Kalamazoo. Guide our thoughts and words for the greater good. Bless us all, especially those who are vulnerable, hurting, and in need. May all find the way to healing and prosperity. And may we all be happy. May we all be well. May we all stay safe. And may we all be peaceful and at ease. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Hess. I appreciate that. Next is the adoption of the formal agenda. Commissioners, are there any items on G, the consent agenda, that you'd like to have moved to H, our regular agenda? All right, seeing no items, now is the opportunity for anyone who's here in the chambers, if you'd like to move an item from our consent agenda to the regular agenda, please let us know now. All right, seeing no one, the agenda stands as it is. COO Lamb, Communications.
Thank you, Mayor. There's so much going around town. I want to just give you a couple of highlights. Little Mermaid was the chosen movie for the final summer cinema series. It's going to be shown at Crane Park on August 30th. Events start around 6 p.m. with some activities for families, and certainly the actual movie itself will be starting at 7 p.m. Certainly want more details, you can look at kalamazooparks.org. We encourage everyone to come out and enjoy the last movie of the summer. Next Festival Friday event is going to be happening this Friday, the 23rd, at Arcadia Festival site. This is from 6 to 10, opportunity to have pop-up festival, live bands, food trucks, vendors. We encourage everyone to come out, support the downtown, have a good time. We also have registration happening now after school programming. Believe it or not, school is starting. Many of us are all well aware that is happening. Want to remind everyone that our Parks and Recs department has an amazing after school program that they offer several areas. You can find more information on our website, opportunity for students to get assistance with their homework, with tutoring, and then after their schoolwork to make sure they have a good time as well. And lastly, the next round of curbside bulk trash is coming. So September starts the next round. We have a lot of information available online about what can be accepted, when the schedules are. This is a good opportunity for some fall cleaning and to get rid of some unwanted items that wouldn't normally fit in your trash bin. That's all for tonight.
Thank you, COO Lamb. Appreciate that. Next on our agenda is public comments. Is this an opportunity for anyone who's here in the chambers who wants to make a comment for the general public to hear and also for the commission? Please come forward now. You'll have 3 minutes. State your name and whether you live in the city.
Hello, my name is Kay, and I just want to say that remind you all that we are in the middle of a housing crisis. There's no more time to wait 5 to 10 years for the affordable housing to be built, because it's not attainable for the 0 to 30%, and that's where the housing crisis is at. That's the concentration, because those people are on the brink of being homeless. And I know some of you work for nonprofits or in different boards and oversee things, and hear every single day people calling desperate because they're about to be evicted. People already evicted who've never even been homeless, on the streets, losing their damn mind, because it's a whole different life in the streets. It's inhumane. It's expensive to be living day by day and not being able to afford the basic things, or even being able to afford a bus. It costs about conservatively like $6 to $7 to ride the bus everywhere they need to go, or have a bike, or if you're disabled in the streets. So it is time. It is time to really look at how the wealth gap is set up, the racial divide that there is in the city. It can no longer be ignored, okay? The north side has an environmental crisis. The library shut down. If you notice, the concentration, the reports, every time I see the data, it always talks about downtown. There's such a focus on downtown because of gentrification. It's to me, it's baffling that this whole country is anti-homeless. Women just lost their rights, reproductive rights. So many things going on. And Kalamazoo, for being such a progressive city, it just doesn't show in the statistics. The Alice statistics themselves were proof that the wealth gap, that the 56% of black households were struggling versus 33 or 37% of white households. White people own the most homes. Almost 70% of the homes that are owned in Kalamazoo are white people. Okay, so there is no shared prosperity happening. The Foundation for Excellence, now it was founded in 2017. What has it done to give all people the opportunity to thrive? Because that's what we hear. We hear this, all people. That is not equitable, because historically black, brown, and indigenous people have been devoid of basic human rights. Okay, devoid of being able to vote. So we cannot start from giving everybody the same thing. We need to tailor the situations per person, and that takes money and that takes priority. This city does not prioritize housing. It does not prioritize homelessness. It does not prioritize the children, the 2,000 children that are living in the streets right now. Okay, being human trafficked, having to sell their bodies to survive, their parents having to tell them, hey, we can't afford you right now. You'll have to go find where you're going to be at. Okay, having to do things that are unreasonable, that you wouldn't.
Yes, next, please.
Hi, my name is Shauna Espinoza, and I'm a resident of Kalamazoo. There's a real housing crisis. If you have a hair sign in your yard, you should be looking forward to what they're doing. Don't just be sitting here. Like, she's talking about change and we're not going back. So maybe that is something y'all should think about. If that's the person that's in your yard sign, that's important. Don't be here and say that you're about the people and what's best and for our babies and for housing, especially if you're not going to put forward to putting the effort. Because you can talk all you want. We're tired of talk. We want change. We need change. Something needs to happen. We need to move forward and move out of this housing crisis. There are too many people out on the streets. Our babies are out on the streets. There's newborns out on the streets. It's about to be wintertime. What are we going to do? When is this going to stop? Are we going to let our babies on the street and freeze to death? How many have froze to death because where are the pots? Where are the housing? Where's the money that should go towards those that are out on the street and need help? Even those that are about to be evicted or about to be on the street. There are so many people that live in poverty. You have to maintain multiple incomes, working multiple jobs, or have multiple people in your house to even be able to live and basically survive. Housing is a basic right. It's a human right. Why are so many people out on the streets? It's not affordable. Housing is not affordable. Y'all shouldn't even use the word affordable. Housing really needs to, y'all need to take a look at housing, how you can make it better and affordable. Something that one person with one income can come in and have decent rent or mortgage. If they're working multiple jobs, who are raising their children? The streets are raising their children. They're out here getting shot. They're out here getting killed. Why? 9 times out of 10, that parent is probably working multiple jobs to make sure that they're surviving. They have the things that they need. That is not normal. Normal in no way. I have 4 generations in my house. Why? Because it's extremely expensive to live. I work for Kalamazoo Public Schools, and I make poverty wages. That's crazy. They expect me to go get another job, but I will never let the streets raise my kids, because we see that you let them raise your kids, that puts them in too many crazy situations. So take a look at what we can do about this housing crisis. Reach out to these organizations that are doing the job and putting in money. Reach out, please.
Thank you. Next, please. Yes, if you would like to speak, please come forward.
I have a handout. Would it be appropriate? Good evening. I'm Beth Vanden Homburg. I live at 1417 Northampton Road. I am reaching out to you today regarding the first reading of an ordinance to amend the final development plan for Friendship Village. The Planning Commission approved the zoning change request with an amendment back in July, on July 8th. Some of the urgent concerns that we have in our neighborhood, specifically the folks on Northampton whose property lines butt up to the Friendship Village portion where there's woodlands. A portion of the amendment is being requested for the implementation of 2 retention ponds, with one of them being installed behind our houses. The fact that this pond will be within a natural features protected woodland and on property that has already been deeded as a restricted area for development is extremely disconcerting. The developer shared at the July Planning Commission meeting that there were other locations on the property where the retention pond could be built. However, implementing the pond behind our houses was the most cost-effective route. Because mosquitoes thrive in stagnant water, we have serious concerns regarding the West Nile virus, the equine encephalitis virus, and other mosquito and insect-borne diseases. According to the Center for Disease Control, 1 in 5 mosquito bites results in body ache and fatigue. 1 in 150 bites results in neurological and physical damage. Would you want this behind your house? For the safety of the family, small children, elderly, and animals that call Westwood home, could you please consider an amendment to the Friendship Village Planned Unit Development Agreement that requires Friendship Village to place the retention pond elsewhere on their property? We also have some significant concerns as to what that property may look like. Friendship Village has stated that there will be no construction within 132 feet of the property line. what does that look like? Is there a legal and binding contract spelling that out, or are citizens going to have to constantly watch for site review, planning documents, and things like that? With regard to the buffers, we would like to know, what that may or may not look like.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the chambers who'd like to take advantage of public comment?
Good evening. Jeff Messer, city resident, Rank My Vote volunteer, and candidate for Kalamazoo Public Library District Board of Trustees on your November 5th ballot. As I shared last week, Rank My Vote is holding a big statewide virtual meeting on Zoom tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Tuesday, August 20. The synopsis is as follows. A presidential election year demonstrates to what extent the current state of our democracy drives divisiveness while simultaneously providing so few outlets for voters to make their voice known. We all may know people who feel, and ourselves feel, like we need more and better options on our ballots so our voices can be heard. We're here to help make that happen so that we have a better, healthier democracy. To that important end, you're invited to attend a special campaign update on August 20. It's hosted by us at Rank My Vote and special guest Katie Fahey, co-founder of Voters Not Politicians. We have some major campaign announcements to discuss with you as we work together toward reforming our democracy for the better. If you'd like to participate in this meeting, please visit our website at rankmyvote.org/events and click the registration link under the event titled Campaign Updates with Katie Fahey. Again, that's rankmyvote.org/events, where MI is MI, the postal abbreviation for Michigan. One of the things you'll learn during our Zoom meeting is about our 40 Town Halls in 40 Days campaign. During 40 days in September and October, Rank My Vote volunteers will be giving presentations about ranked choice voting in cities all across Michigan. The synopsis of this series is as follows. America is more politically divided than ever, yet many voters' voices go unheard. It seems we can't bridge the gap between our peers on opposite sides of the aisle to get things done. This is a symptom of our broken elections, but if we come together, we can work to fix it. Join your fellow citizens at a town hall for a presentation of the problems with our current voting system and our ambitious plan for the solution, ranked choice voting. Please invite your friends, family, and neighbors as well. At our town hall, you can ask any and all of your democracy reform questions. Come and meet our volunteers and other reform-minded citizens. The statewide series kicks off at 6 p.m. on Monday, September 9 at the Brighton District Library. The first West Michigan stop will be here in Kalamazoo on Tuesday, September 17 from 6 to 7:30 p.m. in the Van Dusen Room at Kalamazoo Public Library's Central Branch in downtown Kalamazoo. Our 40 and 480 series comes to Portage on Thursday, September 26 at the Unitarian Universalist Community Church on Shaver Road. You can RSVP for any of these events on our website at rankmyvote.org/events. We have 22. Check that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to take advantage of this public comment period? Well, thank you so much to everyone who took the time and made the effort to come down here and provide comments this evening. Next is the consent agenda. COO Lamb.
Thank you. Item 1, approval of a change order with Rapa Electric Incorporated for the emergency repair of the wastewater treatment plant secondary blower motor in the amount of $54,707.11, bringing the total purchase to $143,084.11. 2, approval of a sole source professional service agreement with Alfred Benich and Company for wastewater plant preventative maintenance and asset management configuration plan phase 1 in the amount of $110,678. Approval of a 3-year contract with Big Truck Rental for Packer Truck Rental for the leaf removal operations in the amount of $421,925. 4, adoption of a resolution to authorize James Baker, PE Public Services Director and City Engineer, to sign all documents related to the state trunk line agreements. 5, approval of the use of $12,000 from the City Commission Initiatives budget to support the annual Shop with a Senior program within the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. 6, approval of a memorandum of agreement with Kalamazoo Public Schools for the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety to provide a school resource officer services for the 24-25 school year. 7, approval of an amendment to the loan agreement with the Standard Caddis 4 Limited Dividend Housing Association Limited Partnership to extend the loan and affordability term from 42 years to 52 years for gap financing in the amount of $420,000 to support construction at 508 Harrison and 660 Gull Road. 8, approval of a public utility easement with Boatnack LLC for water main installed as part of the Hamptons Plaza project at 6289 West Main Street in Ashimo Township. 9, approval of a street utility easement with Midwest V LLC for water main installed as part of the 7992 North 34th Street development in Richland Township. 10, approval of a public utility easement with Westview Capital LLC for water main installed as part of Phase 3 of the Applegate Point development in Texas Township. And 11, approval of a purchase agreement with Donovan Martin for the purchase of 502 Lawrence Street, and this is postponed until September 3rd.
Thank you, COO Lamb. Appreciate it. So, Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 1 through 10 and postpone item 11 until September 3rd, 2024, and authorize the city manager to sign all related documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Decker,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Wilson. Clerk Burling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Next, regular agenda, COO Lamb.
Item H1, first reading of an ordinance to amend the final development plan for the Friendship Village Plan Unit Development located at 1400 and 1402 North Drake Road and the western 1,440 feet of 4300 Beach Avenue, and schedule a public hearing for September 3rd, 2024.
Thank you. I presume that there is a...
We do have Bobby
staff-
Durkee,
oh,
our Assistant City Planner. He is here to provide us with a brief presentation and answer any questions that you might have.
Welcome, Mr. Durkee.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson, Commission. So the presentation I'm giving here is the first reading of an amendment to a planned unit development. I'm going to use the term PUD. It's an acronym. I think the simplest way I've explained what a PUD is, think of it as a self-contained zoning ordinance. Instead of opening the zoning ordinance, there's a development plan, a development agreement, developer statements called, which becomes the effective zoning of this property. I'll do a little bit of background, a brief background of the history of this, because this is an amendment of a PUD, and a PUD that goes back to 1972. And there's a little bit, it's a little complicated, so I think I made it real short, and I'll be able to give the background and be able to address any questions you guys may have. And I saw some people from the development team here as well, so they may be here if there's anything I don't know. That works. All right, so there's the PUD. I just stole that from the zoning ordinance. A planned unit development is a zoning district overlay for a special project or development which aims for a greater public benefit not typically achieved by typical zoning ordinance regulations. In 1972, the nursing care home and residential uses was mixed use type of use, where PUD was what was approved. To explain that, I think we permit much more mixed uses by right today than we did in 1972. So here I put in white the ones for the Friendship Village PUD. In blue is the Garden Homes PUD. Friendship Village's property is actually made up of two separate PUD plans. That further confusion goes, the Garden Homes one, which is not part of this request, was a different PUD which was changed in the 90s, and there was a little bit of overlap. So part of this PUD approval is to make sure that those lines are really clear and that the mix-up is identified. So in 1972, as I mentioned, was the original approval. In 1981, West Wind's PUD. Off of Grand Prairie, there's a couple houses in the city. Those houses were the first phase of what was to be the Grand Prairie PUD, never developed except for that portion. In 1997, the Friendship Village was built out to its original 1972 PUD. And at that time, they had acquired a parcel to the east, 1402 Drake, which is immediately to the east, backs up to those homes on Northampton. And they amended the PUD for some building additions. You can build beyond the PUD by right within a very small percentage. Anything beyond that is an amendment. And when Friendship Village was doing some due diligence, preparing their plan, they realized this is a full amendment. You can't use the little administrative approval. So then that 1997 plan was approved, and what happened then was there was a 132-foot buffer, a natural space buffer, it uses generic language. That was on the west side of 1402 Drake. Now it's on the east side, exists today, and the resolution from that 1997 approval is the recorded buffer restriction. Friendship Village amended that PUD for the homes, the garden homes, in 2007, and because it was less units, it only required a planning commission approval. That was based off of the 1997 zoning or the 2007 zoning ordinance. So here we are today. Just before in 2013, Friendship Village got some site plan approval for some building additions and largely had developed out their entire PUD plan. And in 2024, the amendment that's in front of you today. So to cover up that history, within the packet was this. It was provided by the applicant. We have parcel lines and PUD lines. They don't match. They don't have to match. It'd be nice if they did, but here we are. And that was showing a representation where in the grid up there in the right, where it shows it squared off, that was in the 1997 approval, but when the garden homes were approved in 2007, they approved a portion in there. And you'll notice there on the right there, they show the 132-foot deeded buffer strip. To help clarify all of that, I got a couple simple images. So as it stands today, there's the layout of the PUDs. The green is the one in front of you today, the Friendship Village. The garden homes, all owned by Friendship Village, is a separate approved PUD plan. And through this action and with the Planning Commission provide a favorable recommendation, the development plan and the record will show that that is the boundary and that is what the review was done for there because the improvements are on the garden home subdivision. You know, they're part of that one, they're within that PUD. This is just showing the zoning. Anything blue is a PUD zone, so on the zoning map, it all looks PUD, but there's 3 PUD developments throughout there. Of course, we're focusing on the 1997 Friendship Village PUD. And this map here is of the future land use map. The light yellow is low-intensity residential, R1 on the future land use map, and R3 is the most intensive residential future land use map. The closest comparison to Friendship Village, there's apartments on there. It would be, you know, a higher intensity residential use with the nursing home care. This is a copy of the 1997 approved PUD. Just for reference, I thought it provided a good context to compare to the current one. This is just for reference, a simplified version of the Garden Homes PUD. That little rectangular on the bottom there is the portion where the buffer is within it, but the PUD plan is underneath it, but the buffer still applies because it's tied to the deed restriction. And then here and within the packet is the PUD plan. So what is the amendment? What are they looking to do? I thought I'd save that for this. On this document, anything that is dark gray is an existing building or existing paving. Generally, you have a very big building with independent living and full nursing care with a ring road around it. There are some portions of demolition and removal of new buildings. The biggest change is to the east there is a multi-story, multi-apartment building with underground parking. That is the one shown all the way to the right there. There's currently trees there. They do put the 132-foot buffer on there. You can see it hashed out. There's a couple more duplexes. And on the right there is the analysis of the number of units, the number of beds. And within that, it becomes, I don't have it right here in front of me, but the amount of change is there's more dwelling units and more beds, but it was overall a pretty small increase because a lot of the work is demolishing existing portions of the building and rebuilding it. And within the PUD plan is the number of units per addition and the number of floors. So at the time of construction, that puts those parameters that aren't in the zoning code. And this was just a close-up view of the parking count, because they do ask for parking beyond what we have a maximum now. However, in the review, because it was already over that and their need that they need to serve, the Planning Commission and city staff thought it was a good match. So I provided that close-up of the parking table. And I've got a couple of pictures here. This is looking back from the garden homes. This picture was at the Planning Commission meeting, and the public comment about the stormwater basin. I forget if it was at the meeting just before, but that right there is the existing basin for the garden homes. And the developer, what came up in the meeting was, they stated that was their vision for that pond over there. And the Planning Commission, through the recommendation, instead of removing the northern portion of the deeded buffer strip, that was staff's original proposal, to remove it so the pond could be put there. There was some conjecture from the Planning Commission that, well, that kind of looks like a buffer strip. So they chose to keep the condition to allow a stormwater basin in the existing buffer strip, which is what their recommendation to this was. So that, I thought, provided a picture of what they envisioned for that. And here is a photo. There's tree removals. It's a big patch of trees. This is an area, although this was back in June, at the area back where it starts to back up to houses. In some areas there's some grass, some areas the trees are a little bit. So that's the view over there. And there's just an extra, last version of the PUD for me to have up there for reference. So that's kind of brief. I have a lot of background information if there's any questions from the commission.
Thank you so much, Mr. Durkee. I really appreciate that. Very well organized, very helpful. Questions from commissioners about this action, which is just the first reading of an ordinance to amend the final development plan for Friendship Village. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that presentation. I have one thing that did stand out to me was the amount of parking that they're looking for. So explain, if you could, just kind of talk about, and maybe show us on the diagrams, where they're planning on putting that parking, if you can refer to whatever page that would be in our packet also.
Yep. Yeah, on the packet, it's on this plan itself. So there's a close-up of the count. Now, in reviewing of it in the preparation of the application, we obviously talked about the parking. And between the original approval that had a parking minimum, so there was an existing number of parking spaces, and then the applicant had staff changes that occur 2 or 3 times a day, and that isn't an immediate thing. And then something that Friendship Village has found with their parking today is, even though one person may live there, guests often come. So between the staff and the people coming outside of the residence and the amount of parking that historically existed, staff was supportive of what they needed out there, because it was amending the original approval, where the parking maximum is a more recent change. So given their constraints and how they've operated, staff was supportive of it.
Okay, and can you show where that would be on a map?
Oh, yes. So on the map, the building itself, the one all the way to the east, the reverse C, the parking is underground part of the building. The parking spaces would be the parking lots. You have the dark gray ones and the light gray ones. And while they don't show all the parking spaces in there, they have a current parking count, and then they have the proposed. So between, the size of the parking lot, drive lanes, and all of that, they show, in a lot of ways, the bigger new parking is the one at the east-north there, where that white building is. But those areas are currently, in that vicinity, there's a gravel parking lot. So they would be removing the gravel parking lot and then putting in a permanently paved one. I think the location of the paving is also meant to tie it more around the facility and campus itself, where a lot of the staff parking is out, kind of hidden in the woods. So on that plan, most of it is around the ring road within the parking lots, unless it's underground over there. And the light gray ones, it's either bare surface now, or some of it is building and parking lot removed and reconfigured. So most of it, the surface parking at least, is still within the ring road, but that ring road is expanded a little bit to the east. And given overall the size of the site, there's still a lot, they're so far over their impervious, they have a lot of, they're not overburdening the site either with a stormwater concern. Say if 80% of the site was pavement instead of 25, for example.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Sure. Bobby, thank you for that presentation. And while I don't doubt the need for housing that we need, this is a net increase of 76 units in Kalamazoo.
It is a net increase. You're correct. 76 units and 19 beds is the net increase overall. And I say that because the additions to the existing, I just call it the central building. I apologize if Friendship Village has a term for it. It's still contained, at least that portion is contained within there.
Okay. Can you speak a little bit to NFP and its use for this kind of building? Can you just speak a little bit to how NFP is used and averted by building on the rest of that land?
Yep, that's a great question. Something I did not put in the commission packet, but maybe I did. It was when this project, if it was approved, it would require site plan review. So the natural feature protection, the standards would apply, and then B, it has to go to the natural feature review committee in order to get site plan approval. And then for the removals, where that reverse backwards C building is wooded now. So for a woodland, there is a percentage you can remove. The larger the woodland, the higher percentage you could remove. So I believe that they could remove up to 25% of the woodland cover by right. And they're well under whatever that is. So the NFPA liaison looked at the PUD plan. One of the items done in the application or processing the application is, hey, is this feasible? Because this isn't a site plan level plan, but what they're showing, is it feasible? So for this one, standalone trees and woodlands would be the two natural feature standards that would be reviewed against at the time of development if it's approved.
Okay, and that hasn't been done yet?
No. Basically, I asked for a high-level analysis to give it to our staff that's more, that understands the code better, to make sure, hey, I've looked at it, I want to make sure we're not missing anything, and they met it for what they show. And then, so once they do develop, how do you know if it's a woodland or tree? A woodland is a cluster, so a tree can't be in a woodland, but standalone trees could be trees. And we provided that information pretty early, so if it's approved, the design team knows what information they need to provide, not only to the site plan committee, but to the natural feature review committee.
Okay, super. Last question. So this one, can you go back to that one? Yeah, so that is, you said that that's the stormwater basin for the garden homes?
Correct.
Are we supposed to think that the stormwater basin for the apartment buildings will be very similar, or will it be like a lake?
That's a great question. A little bit of the nuance with the term basin is a stormwater basin can be lots of things. So, for example, that is, I guess Baker can always correct me, that's an infiltration basin because it goes into the dirt, and that's why the plants can grow there. Unless there's a really heavy water event, there's usually not standing water. You could also develop a lined pond, which holds the water, does not drain. I don't know that the NFP gets into the specifics of that. But that being said, I know that the development team, that is their preferred option. And in some of the research that our office has done on buffer, because the buffer that exists, a lot of questions came up with the Planning Commission, do we need to strengthen this language? But we found that buffer is a generic term for conservation for many things, where the EPA even had a document on designing stormwater basins in buffers. So that became, what came up was, what is the buffer? And then a little bit of supportive staff also takes the approach of, hey, what could that deeded buffer be? On the PUD plan, we see a stand of woods and we see a stormwater basin. So I think during the site plan review or the NFP review, if there was any impact outside of that stormwater basin, at least as it's presented, that is the extra weight beyond it. You know, you can't show a plan of tree removal because it's, that buffer there is a stand of trees. Where before, you know, we had the old one, the old diagram. Kind of the same thing.
Yeah, similar.
So that's where, and in short, I did talk to one of our engineers that works in stormwater management, went over the plan similar to the NFP, feasibility, this is the situation, is this feasible? And it was. And so far I haven't heard anything saying why this could not be an infiltration basin.
Thank you, Planner Durkee.
Appreciate those questions. Vice Mayor Hess. Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one more question, you know, as I'm looking at some of the stuff from the Planning Commission on July 8th. And on one of these diagrams, it talks about the percentage of woodlands being removed. Do we have a picture that shows where that is? I mean, is it going to be a big amount, a small amount? Like, what does it look like now? Because what I'm thinking is that I think when we start to remove some of these trees, I think of the development that happened on Oakland, and all of a sudden, tons of trees are gone. So I'm wondering, do you have a picture? Could you bring that to the second reading, or send it to us, of what it looks like now, and maybe mark it off and see what's going to be leaving? Because that's a drastic and dramatic change to, to an area.
That's a good point. Yes, we could, because my answer was going to be I'm sliding between two slides, and that's not a very good way to help understand what is being removed. So we could definitely, by the second reading, have something within the packet or for the commission or the public that makes that a little more clear. Because sitting here, I know where the trees are, and I see the old plan, but that's not drawn on there. So. And I would say, I could say very comfortably, this is a lot less tree removal than occurred on Oakland.
Okay, thank you. I think the community would like to kind of know what they will be losing, but then again, also the community want to know what we're going to be gaining, which is, you know, definitely housing for our aging population that is here. But then also just kind of see, you know, how many trees are coming down.
And I do recall a little bit of a nuance with this project is there's a lot of memorial trees and memorial gardens. So there are elements of the site where they aren't going to develop. And I know as part of the consideration and tree removal, that was part of it. It's generally most, I would say about a third of the northern portion there. Whatever that percentage was pretty close, and it was still, if it was 75% they could remove, they're well below that. And I believe at Oakland, they were either right at it or got a variance.
Other questions, commissioners? All right, good questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Mr. Durkee. With no more questions from the commission, this is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to comment on this item. This is item H1. If you want to comment on this item, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes and state your name, whether you live in the city. And just a reminder, this is a comment on the first reading of an ordinance to amend the final development plan for the Friendship Village planned unit development. Seeing no one, the recommended action is a motion to offer the ordinance for first reading and set a public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Decker, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. Discussion, Commissioners. All right, thank you so much. Seeing none, Clerk Brown, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hoffman. Yes. Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Commissioners. The motion passes. Next on the agenda is item H2, COO Lamb.
Adoption of an ordinance to amend Sections 1820 of Chapter 33, Streets and Other Public Grounds, to update the requirements related to clearing of snow and ice from sidewalks.
All right, thank you so much, COO Lamb. Just as a reminder, I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting about the Committee of the Wholes and the kind of topics that get discussed, and this was one of the topics that was discussed at a previous Committee of the Whole. We've talked about this before. So I presume there's not any long presentation planned for this evening, but do you have anything for tonight's agenda?
You are correct. Deputy Director from CPED and City Planner Christina Anderson gave us a lengthy presentation at our last meeting. She's certainly here and available to answer questions if you have them, but is not planning on redoing the presentation this evening.
Okay, appreciate that. Questions for Planner Anderson at this point? All right, appreciate that. So now is the opportunity for anyone who's here in the chambers who would like to comment on this item, which is item H2, related to the clearing snow and ice from sidewalks. Is there anyone in the chambers who wants to comment on this?
Good evening. Jeff Messer, city resident and candidate for Kalamazoo Public Library District Board of Trustees on the November 5th ballot. First, I'd like to thank City Planner Christina Anderson for bringing these amendments to the sidewalk snow removal ordinances forward. We can't have a walkable city if our sidewalks are not plowed during the winter and our bicycle lanes. So all that needs to be maintained year round. But a week ago, I did email everyone on the commission my thoughts on these changes, and I will bring them up again. First, I'd like to point out Section B. What the commission is being asked to repeal all of current sections of Ordinance 3318, 3319, and 3320, tie-barred to enactment of an entirely new section of 3318. And then 19 and 20 will just be reserved in ordinance. But of that new ordinance, section B.3 reads, the public sidewalk shall be maintained in a safe and clear condition and treated to prevent ice buildup and slippery conditions by using sand, salt, or similar material, in addition to the clearing of snow and ice. I'm opposed to the city in any way encouraging the additional use of salt. I wish our snow trucks could use something else. The salt runs off into our waterways and it causes all kinds of environmental damage. It invalidates those people that wear the shirts that, Lake Michigan, salt-free since 1837. It causes damage to people's clothes and their shoes, the sidewalks themselves, automobiles, just everything that comes in contact with that. That salt is corrosive. And while, this is a small bit, it's the attitude, I guess, that counts. Every small little bit counts. Maybe someday we can get the road salt off the trucks. On the Western Michigan University campus, they use, beet juice. They treat the sidewalks with beet juice. But I would like this entire section B.3 removed, particularly the salt section. The other thing is I would like Attorney Leal to tell us what authority does the city have to compel private persons to maintain city property. Currently, private persons must maintain city curb lawns by mowing the grass. This year requires people to shovel the sidewalks. This is not David Anderson, West Douglas Neighborhood Association president, saying, please do the neighborly thing, shovel your sidewalks. I appreciate that, but this is David Anderson, figurehead of the city of Kalamazoo, saying, if you don't shovel your sidewalks, we're going to send a contractor out, we're going to bill you for it, we're going to put a lien on your property tax bill. If you don't pay that, then for 3 years, then we're going to foreclose on your house. So this is government force, and I would like the attorney to explain, why the limits of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this particular item, H2? Thank you once again. Not seeing anyone. Attorney Leal, would you like to comment on that question?
Yes, Mayor. In response to the questions that just asked by Mr. Messer, the city's authority has been granted to impose this mandate or conditions upon property owners has been long recognized in our state history, our state legislative history, and the powers that have been granted to cities. One such power, which is the one involved here, is each city in its charter can provide for the use, regulation, improvement, and control of the surface of its streets, alleys, public ways, and of the space above and beneath them. That power has been in effect since an 1881 Michigan Supreme Court decision, and so this is what gives every city in the state the ability to require not just the mowing of the grassy area between the curb and the sidewalk, but also the maintenance of the streets. This is, and it does so under its police power authority. If we step back and think, what is the purpose of this requirement? It is for public safety. It is for people to be able to walk safely in times of winter where there's snow and ice accumulates on the sidewalks. And the power of the city is that being intended to ensure that the public pedestrians that are walking do so safely. And so that is the history of the power that all Michigan cities have under the Home Rule Cities Act to enact this type of regulation. Again, it's not simply because the city just wants to impose more requirements. The basic purpose is pedestrian safety.
Thank you, Attorney Leal. That's helpful. Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to adopt the ordinance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson.
Support.
Supported by Vice Mayor Hess. Discussion, Commissioners. All right. Yes, Vice Mayor Hess.
You know, Director Baker's just sitting back there looking like he wants something to do. So I have a question for the Director from the Public Services perspective. How can we melt ice without salt? And is there an alternative for that? And I think it is important that the ice be removed in addition to the snow. I mean, that could be catastrophic. So how much does the city spend on salt, and how else can we melt the ice?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, City Commission, for inviting me up to provide perhaps some answers to some of these questions. We are unfortunately challenged in that salt does work the best to melt ice. The city spends about $300,000 a year on salt right now. And from a average winter standpoint, we can use anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 tons of salt a year on our roadways. Also, as your utility director, I understand the challenges that has, with water. We have Woods Lake that has high levels of salinity and chloride in it right now from road salt. We are looking at areas within the Woods Lake watershed is extremely sensitive to salt use. We've also conducted research with Western Michigan University, and we have identified salt and chlorides in Spring Valley as well. So that's up there at Spring Valley Park. We are also seeing elevated chlorides in our drinking water from road salt as well. So we're able to at least scientifically connect the dots, so to speak. We know that salt does have tremendous environmental concerns and risk with it for continued long-term use. So we are doing some things in public services, recognizing those concerns. One of the first things that we are doing is we utilize an agricultural byproduct to treat our piles. We also use that agricultural byproduct to not only increase the active working strength of the salt, so make the salt work at a lower temperature so that we don't have to use as much, but that also provides a coating to the salt and prevents what we call scatter, so it helps keep it tighter. Another project that we've been working on within public services, and we're in our third year of it, and we're going to be we're on schedule to actually beta test it this year. So we went through and we GPS and surveyed all of our routes. We're then working with an engineer firm to upload that into like a GIS platform for us, and then to upload that into our actual GPS units that are on our trucks. So think of like your TomTom or your MapQuest type feature. We're going to have that capability in each one of the trucks, and then that's going to drive and map the route for the drivers. We're taking that a step further and taking SALT application to a supervisory control feature. So what that means is that the SALT application would be programmed into the trucks by supervision before the trucks deploy out. And what that does is that gives us the opportunity to create those zones that are really critical for us, like Woods Lake watershed. We could geofence around those areas and say, very limited salt application or no salt application. We're not quite to the point where we could go no salt application, but we are certainly looking at reducing that on local streets. We're looking at really just minimizing and doing what we call like spot salting, where we would spot just in front of the stop sign, 200 feet in front of the stop sign, and then spot salt on, areas of pavement, every 300 to 400 feet or something like that. We're also looking at implementing more sand into the salt mixture. The challenge with sand is that, we have a storm drain system, curb and gutter, catch basins. So if we put sand on, that's going to be more maintenance that we're going to have to spend on our stormwater system and more cost on stormwater. So salt is very cheap, and we can get a lot done with a very small price tag. And we recognize environmental concerns with that. We're taking several steps to minimize that salt use, to optimize that salt use. And, we're excited to report back after this winter to see how that beta testing in the trucks is going to work for us. If that's going to really help us to better manage our salt usage, and to not burden our drivers with that responsibility. That's something as big of a concern as salt is. That's something that we feel strongly should be a management decision, not necessarily put on the shoulders of our drivers. So, that all being said, there's a lot of energy and effort and education and awareness focused on salt on our roadways. And I think we're, going to apply those same conversations and that same deep dive into sidewalk usage as well. I can share with you that the miles of sidewalks that we're going to be doing, those 19 miles that the city crews are doing, we had a very successful operation from January 12th through January 16th of 2024. With the really early parts of 2024, we worked together with park staff, and we were able to get all those sidewalks, plowed and maintained. It was really cold. It was blowing. We did not apply salt at the time, but we plowed those sidewalks 4 times during that snow event. So there is going to be some push and pull, perhaps. Perhaps we may not need to use salt, but we might need to plow more often. The goal is the pavement is clear. How we get there could be many different ways.
Thank you. I always love your ability to speak extemporaneously about so many issues, but this one is particularly educational for me. People don't necessarily need to use salt on their sidewalks. We're not saying in the ordinance that people need to salt their sidewalks. We're saying they have to keep it down to the cement.
Correct. My understanding of the ordinance is that it gives us room to use other products and to have it clear. I don't think we're going to be going out and saying, well, there's not salt here, and so we're going to take enforcement action. We're just looking for it to be clear.
Right. Thank you. So my question then is for Attorney Leal. If indeed we were just to strike all of the chemicals that we asked residents to use to clear their sidewalks and just say to be cleared down to the cement? How, is there something that we could do to change that language and not have people think that they need to use salt on their sidewalks?
Maybe we should reference the actual language in the ordinance, which already provides that option, without changing anything. Do you have that section up, Attorney Lane?
Yes, I do. Would you like for me to read it for the commission
Sure.
and the public? Section 3318B3 that's proposed reads as follows. The public sidewalk shall be maintained in a safe and clear condition and treated to prevent ice buildup and slippery conditions by using sand, salt, or similar material in addition to the clearing of snow and ice.
I'm just wondering if that means down to the cement. Is that how I hear you? It's just down to the cement.
I think the practical effect of that definition probably would mean down to the cement. And if you're clearing the ice, making it ice-free, you would have to get it down to the cement. Again, I am a Southerner, so, you know, I'm relying on the 10 years that I've been in Michigan, so.
Okay, thank you.
Christine Anderson.
Sure. Just for clarification, Attorney Leal read item number 3 in that section. Item number 2 says snow and ice shall be removed from the full width of the public sidewalk to expose the bare pavement of the sidewalk. It's just split into different sections, and so each line reads specifically. The first one talks about the time period, the 48 hours after the snow event. The second one is down to the pavement, full width of the sidewalk. Third one talks about, yes, please remove the snow, but also think about the other winter elements that make the sidewalk impassable and clear those as well.
Thank you, Planner Anderson. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, thank you so much. So just to follow up on that, I mean, I am sympathetic to the concern about dumping salt in the environment as well. I will tell you that from my personal experience as a devoted sidewalk shoveler, that is my primary winter sport, is shoveling sidewalks, that the quicker you get on it before people walk on it, the easier it is to get the snow off without having to use other assisting chemicals or devices. So I would encourage everyone to get right on that. I know you mentioned about 4 plows. That's why you didn't have to use anything else on the sidewalk, because you got it off before it was walked down and melted on the sidewalk. Also, as a facilities director where I work, I take care of parking lots, and I do have some specialty parking lots where I cannot apply salt. And there are products available which you can use as an alternative salt, which are also decent melters, and in a sidewalk, even though they're a bit more expensive than salt, it is really a reasonably insignificant expense when you're talking about a little section of sidewalk to use that. And basically, you can't get any cheaper than sand. Although I'm sympathetic, you don't want it to be washed into our storm sewer system, I get that, but a little bag of baby sand is going to take you all the way through in terms of providing traction in the wintertime, if that's what it gets down to, which, I would encourage. I hate to see it when people, at their own facilities do use salt and basically, dump vast bucket loads of salt on the steps or stairs or a walk, and it's just crunch, crunch, crunch as it all sits there. That's over salting in my estimation, which we tend to do sometimes. Clerk Barnley, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Commissioners. The motion passes. Next on the agenda is item H3, COO Lamb.
Approval of an agreement with Kalamazoo County for the allocation of $1,200,000 of American Rescue Plan Act grant funding to be used to leverage community resources from the creation of emergency residential shelter space that would prevent families with children from seeking shelter and substandard housing and address critical needs identified within the city.
Thank you so much, COO Lamb. Well, this was items added to our agenda, so I presume there you have a city team member here to talk about that. Is that correct?
To invite Sherilyn Parsons, our Housing Development Supervisor. She's going to give a brief presentation, and certainly we'll try to answer questions that you might have.
Welcome, Ms. Parsons.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson, Vice Mayor Hess, and Commissioners for having me speak to this item. So the Kalamazoo County and the City of Kalamazoo have been in discussions and are focused on housing opportunities for residents that create deep and lasting change. The city and the county together have a shared focus on this, and together we aim to address critical housing needs within the City of Kalamazoo. This is a unique opportunity for us to come together and leverage our individual resources and combine them in such a way that would allow us to work to pursue housing options for emergency residential shelter space. This is to really prevent families with children seeking substandard housing. The support that we are recommending for the Kalamazoo County is a creative gap financing that would leverage the county dollars, and this would include the county millage that we have access to. And there are a few unique situations, I'll call them, that precluded some of these conversations for this recommendation. One, in July, as of July 1st, Michigan State Housing Development Authority, MSHDA, announced that they will not be releasing any more housing choice vouchers. On top of that, they also indicated that they would not allow the recertification of households that were already on the waiting list. So prior to this, if you were on the waiting list, which could oftentimes take years to still manifest into housing, you could recertify as homeless and remain on the list. But with this change, what will happen is there won't be a recertification and people will be dropped from the list. Also in 2024, the point in time count that's done in conjunction with the continuum of care indicated that there was a 13% increase in families experiencing homelessness. And then we have since really seen the verification of that play out as our shelters are seeing higher numbers than typical, even through this summer. So once again, this support is a creative way to provide gap financing so that we leverage individual resources to combine efforts to pursue solutions for emergency and residential shelter space within the City of Kalamazoo.
Thank you very much, Ms. Parsons. Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Decker? No? Vice Mayor Hess?
No, we're all happy about this.
Okay, great.
I know that there's a lot of questions from the community, and that's just not, the answers to those aren't available yet. Like, where is this? When is it going to happen? All this. I think will be happening in the future, correct?
Yes. So really, this is for us to pursue these strategies and to come together to really leverage the dollars that the county has and bring them to the city. And so the city is recommending a support of 1.2 with the expectation that the county then is going to leverage that with additional dollars so that both of or all of these dollars can then be utilized within our city to find solutions and pursue these.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Commissioner Hoffman? Question?
I was trying not to say anything. I would like to know where is the city of Portage in these conversations that were happening between the city of Kalamazoo, the county, because we've always been saying this. Our homeless population is not just a city of Kalamazoo issue. We have people coming in from different municipalities to get services here, and they go back. So I really would love to hear if you know how much skin in the game does Portage have into this initiative?
Yeah, so thank you for that question, and agreed that this is not just a city challenge, that this affects many people and players. So the city of Kalamazoo has actually been meeting with the city of Portage to talk about solutions, to talk about challenges, and to pursue really strategies on homelessness, on emergency sheltering and space and what is needed. Within those meetings, also the continuum of care is at the table, bringing both the information, bringing real-time solutions, introducing the players at this table to their on-the-ground council. And then also Southwest Michigan First has joined in the conversation as well. So these conversations are happening with the city of Portage, with the city of Kalamazoo, with Kalamazoo County, with Southwest Michigan First, and with the continuum of care at the table, faithfully discussing and figuring out how can we leverage our resources, the capacity that we have within our unique playing arenas, and bring them into solutions.
Thank you. So, but you're saying there's no money on the table from Portage yet?
Mm-hmm. Is there money on the table for Portage? Well, now, if I could speak for Portage, which I can't speak for Portage, so I don't have money from Portage.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions at this time? All right, seeing none, thank you, Ms. Parsons, I appreciate it. Now is the opportunity for anyone that'd like to comment on this item to come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and whether you live in the city.
Hello, my name is Kay. I'm from We the People, Kalamazoo, and I just want you all to know that it's an emergency, right? We're just talking about putting funds together, pursuing solutions, like it's a walk in the park. I want you to understand that we need the solutions yesterday. We needed the solutions a year ago. So the urgency, the pressure needs to be put on to make sure that these funds are allocated quickly, right? Because these funds were given to the city in 2021. Like, we should have been already doing this in 2021. The ALA statistics came out they were just announced, 2022, about, the pandemic. So I want you all to understand the urgency, right? This is good. I'm not saying it's not good. It's great that they're looking for solutions, but we need the solutions yesterday. We needed the solutions when the COVID money was gone, when families went back to struggling every day, right? We're at the housing meeting, what was it, like a month or two ago, they were talking about the HARA funds are expiring. There was no more solutions, that families were going to be in the streets. So families are already in the streets, right? We're talking about making sure this happens and making sure it happens quickly, right? Because what happened to the pods? Like, that could have been a solution. That could be a solution for the winter, right? And we see the bureaucracy. We see all these things. We need to really, really put the pressure on both the city, the county. Like you said, I agree. There's so many people, not just in the city, but in the county, in Parchment, in the township, right? Like, we really, really need an urgent solution to housing, and we really need to address the problem with predatory landlords. I think that's where it starts, right? Like, this is good, this is great, but the fact that we have systemic issues at hand is the real conversation that we need to have. How is this going to help fix the systemic issues? Is this a step towards that, or is this just something for the city to make themselves look good? We're going to follow this in the news, and it's never going to really address the fundamental systemic issues that are in Kalamazoo. That's what I want y'all to understand. When we talk about money being allocated, it's great. I love it. I like to see this, right? But I like to see this soon. I like to see this as an emergency, you know, for the city, for the county, to really, really, really address the systemic inequalities that are even in homelessness. Like Black and brown indigenous people are the biggest population of homeless people, and that's where we should start. Right? Can we really talk about putting this towards Black, brown, and indigenous people, or or is it going to be like every other service where white people and people who are not generationally homeless, families who have been homeless for generations, are they going to have access to this? Right? So these are the real questions. This is the emergency.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this particular topic, H3? All right, seeing no one. Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to approve the agreement. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Hoffman.
Second.
Supported by Vice Mayor Hess. Further discussion, Commissioners? All right. Did you want to say something, Commissioner Decker?
I did, Mayor. Thank you. When I heard about this, I was very excited. And I'm glad they were able to use some of these funds that had been slated for housing to really start to do something with the housing, and the partnership with the county, I think, is wonderful. Commissioner Hoffman, I hear you on PC. Just kind of wondering. But it is, you know, it takes a whole community, not just the city, not just the county, not just the township, but it takes everybody in the underlying areas. And when you think about how many shelters there are, just think about how many shelters there are or are not within our surrounding communities. And I just think that stepping up to this plate and assisting is a good thing. And I'm hoping we can get this done, as Kay said, sooner rather than later. I feel that the urgency is there, and I feel that now, since we have more of a collaborative conversation, and we have funds now that we hopefully know what we can do with them, that it'll be done quick. And I'm looking forward to it. So I want to thank our team for working on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Yes, I do think that this is a very positive step, recognizing by the broader community that this is an issue that affects all of us. And I know that the City of Portage folks are at the table, so it's not like you're there. I wouldn't be surprised to see some strong support from the city as well as other entities. I think it's obvious the City of Kalamazoo is not going to solve this issue alone. So glad to see the partnership. Clerk Borland, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Reports and legislation. COO Lamb, do you have a report?
I do. I will make it quick. Several of us earlier this month were out celebrating National Night Out, August 6th. Jay Slavey spoke to over 1,000 people that were spread across 5 sites. I really just wanted to take some time. One, to thank the neighborhoods, Northside, Arcadia, Millwood, Douglas, Westwood, neighborhood leaders that really put on an incredible night of events and activities. I want to extend my gratitude to the departments, to Public Safety, to CPED, to Public Services, to Parks and Rec. It was amazing to be out in Kalamazoo on that night, to see so many people coming together. Just the joy in the families and the faces and on the staff to be able to have these good experiences. We know that it takes a lot of work for these events. We know there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. It's certainly one of my favorite nights of the year in Kalamazoo, and I wanted to thank everyone that was there to make it possible.
Thank you, COO Lamb. Now is the opportunity for Commissioner comments. Commissioners, are there comments that anyone would like to make this evening? No? All right.
I'll go.
Okay.
I just have a few
Vice Mayor
things.
Hess, go ahead.
I'll make it quick, too. Before we meet again, school starts in Kalamazoo. And we're a better community when we all value education. Let us be patient with the increased traffic of students from all over the country coming with more vehicles to Kalamazoo. Let us be careful around the buses and remember that those little arms come out for a reason and the red lights go on for a reason to stop. There are children around. Please be careful. And please watch out for increased pedestrians and bikers on our streets and sidewalks. More people going to destinations to learn. So that said, before school begins on August 24th, there's a Northside Ministerial Alliance Anti-Gun Violence Carnival. That's this Saturday from 11 to 3 at Lincoln Elementary. And it's just for families, for family fun, and hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Hess. Any other comments from commissioners? All right, thank you so much. Well, once again, I'll try not to blubber at the end of this meeting. I seem like I've been on a bit of a emotional roller coaster, but and I'll get to that in just a second. But it's a real pleasure serving with all of you. I appreciate that. City team, I really appreciate working with the entire city team here. It's one of the positive things I get to do in a world that sometimes feels like it's got a lot of negative around it. And, related to that, I think one thing that happens to those of us who have the honor of getting to sit up here is that in some way we've made a public statement saying that we are in essence, kind of adopting a broader family here in Kalamazoo. It's not just the biological family that we spend time with or just our friends, that we are really kind of demonstrating we're part of a whole family here in Kalamazoo. And that does mean that I know for all of us, we often get notifications from our chief when very unfortunate events occur, and we have our great public safety team that, that responds to those things. Times of trouble, 24 hours a day, we got that great team that rushes in. But since our last meeting, we've had a very young teenager who received a very critical gun injury, which, it couldn't be sadder. Don't know what the prognosis is there, but obviously a very tough situation. I think a younger person took their own life in a public way here in Kalamazoo, which I think we were being aware of that in terms of response to public safety. And those kinds of things are something that I think we feel in a more visceral way when you're hearing those things firsthand and you grapple with, what is it we can do about it? And there is only so much, even if you're sitting up here. So I guess I'm just going to use this time just to implore, our community of adults, and I guess just because of where I sit here, I'm going to say men in this particular request. We need adult men in this community to step forward in every way you can. And, this may not be a glory job, but this may just be a young person that happens to live next door to you, someone that you see, a relative. And make sure that you are making real, authentic connections with young people that live in this community. And several of us up here have young families and are spending a lot of time with our own children. But that said, I think these responses will not be successful if they're not community responses. And it is the responsibility for all of us to bring that sense of community, bring that sense of care to all the young people that we cross paths with. And maybe there is just one or two of those young people that you see most often in your life. Make sure they know that. Make sure you care. Support them to the realization of the opportunity for hope and that they're loved and supported. I love you, Kalamazoo. We're adjourned.